I heard somebody, I don't remember who said this, maybe it was Cody Sanchez or somebody. She's like, do 10% more than most people, and that's like showing up to work 10 minutes early.
When you are willing to do that in any industry, success is waiting for you. It doesn't matter if you want to do short-term, mid-term, long-term, flips, wholesales, wholesales. The one thing you need for any of those strategies to work appropriately is you need it.
Do you think anybody has the ability to do whatever they want? Like
100%. Yes.
Dude, you just gave me goosebumps right now. What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the JV Pod, the JV Podcast, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what it is, but it's the pod. And I'm super pumped because if you're one of those people that never believed that you can do anything, in fact, I talk to people all the time that are like, you think you could do everything in reality? Like, can you actually really do something? Well, Henry Washington and myself discuss in detail why we believe that anybody can do anything they want, whether that's building $1 million business, whether that's becoming an NBA basketball player. We break down the principles that we believe that people that want to build something need to have. In fact, I do believe that everybody has the opportunity to do anything they want. I was taught that as a kid, but does that actually matter? We're going to talk about it today. In fact, this is one of my favorite episodes that I've had to date. Henry's just a genuine person. He has an incredible mind. And he talked about some stuff that was really, really near and dear to my heart. And somebody that I actually learned a lot of stuff from. So definitely hang out. You guys are going to love this episode. I can promise to you it's going to be one of your favorite episodes that you've heard in a long time. But before we do that, make sure to give me a like, a thumbs up, a 5-star review if you're listening to this on Spotify or any other streaming device. The reason why we get this is to get it to you guys. So if there's a way that we can create and connect with more people, please do that because it's going to help us tremendously. You guys are going to love this episode. Here it comes right now. What's up, guys? I have a special guest today, Mr. Henry Washington. I'm super excited to have you here with me. I actually watched you in Fresno. I didn't know who the heck you were in Fresno. This was with Pace and Jamil, probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, dude. You remember that?
I absolutely remember that. Yes, sir.
You probably don't remember meeting me, but I remember talking to you, just watching you on stage, and I'm like, man, this guy has this incredible, and I'm not trying to give you a big head right now, Henry. He has an incredible way of explaining himself where I feel it and it doesn't feel scammy or bullshit. It felt like a genuine, real, even my wife said the same thing. She's like, man, I really like we were talking about who did you like the best at the event? She's like, I really liked Henry. And I was like, me too. And she's like, you didn't like Pace? I thought Pace was your guy. I was like, no, I love Pace, but I don't know who Henry is. And I'm a fan of his. And it was just your curiosity to explaining to people things. It's just really, really good. In fact, I thought of you when I had the Midterm Rental Summit. I really want to have Henry speak because I believe that you truly care about people. You just feel it. It's something that I think when people meet you, that's something that if they have that skill, I feel that. But you said something to me, man. I talked to you about writing a book, and you said if you don't write a book, you're doing a disservice to your kids because you have the opportunity and a platform to do so.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that? Because that stuck with me since I left San Diego. I've been thinking about it weekly. Can you talk about your book first off, and second off, what that actually meant? Because it was good. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, man, I do remember that. A lot of that is because I wrote this book, Real Estate Dealmaker. It was hard, right? Writing a book is hard. And even on a subject matter that you feel you're an expert on, all the things, and you going into it, I was like, yeah, no sweat. I'll write a book about this. And then you start thinking about how you have to organize your thoughts and organize your delivery in a way that really is, teaching someone how to do these skills and organizing in a way that in a book, it was just a whole lot harder than I expected. But I pushed through it and I did it. And, people ask me, they're like, man, how was writing a book? And I'm like, well, it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in business. And they go, well, will you write another one? And my answer is always, yeah, I don't necessarily want to, but I feel like I have to. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people who want to write a book, need to write a book because that's their profession, that's their calling, and they don't necessarily get the opportunity to. They're having to pitch all these ideas to publishers, and they've got to work really hard to get their idea into a book and then published for public consumption. Whereas here, because I chose to buy a property one day and then turn that into a business and then start an Instagram account, I now have this amazing opportunity to be able to write a published book. And I just feel like if I don't take advantage of that opportunity, like I'm doing myself a disservice, I'm doing my family a disservice, and I'm doing everybody else a disservice who really wants to be able to get their idea into a book form and out there and can't. And so, and I want my kids, man, people ask me why I wrote it. And yes, books are great in terms of generating credibility. They're great in terms of having kind of this like calling card that you have for saying, hey, I did this thing, I wrote this book, and now it's available. But that's not why I wanted to write it. Like, I just want my kids to be able to walk into a bookstore anywhere in the country and like pick up a book that like their dad wrote. Like, that's cool, man. Like, I remember my dad had a piece of artwork published in a magazine. And I got to go to Barnes and Noble in a whole different state and find this magazine and buy these. Like, I bought like every copy I could because my dad's artwork was in it. Like, I want my kids to be able to do that. And like, I get to be able to do that. Like, not everybody gets that, man. And so I feel like if I don't write this book and if I don't write another book, if the opportunity presents itself, then I'm doing everybody a disservice around me.
I never even thought about it like that, where somebody can, one of my kids could be able to pick up a book randomly in any place in the U.S. and be able to look that up. I remember reading about your mom was a public speaker. Am I right? She worked for like the city or something like that?
Yeah, she worked for the county, and so she did.
County.
She was in waste management. Yep.
Got you. Okay, cool. And then your dad, is he an artist? Like a sketch artist? Like, what kind of art did he do?
He did acrylic on canvas, but he was a high school art teacher for his career.
High school art teacher. Yeah. Super awesome. That's super dope. So do you have any artistic skills in you? You got the public speaking stuff down.
Yeah. I picked up 0% of the artistic ability.
Oh man. Is your dad like, what happened to you, Henry?
No, man. He never was like big on me getting into art, but he was also a basketball coach and a basketball player when he was younger, and so like that's what I did. That's the part I took from my dad.
That's the part you took. That's freaking dope, dude. I love that. You brought something up when you were talking about your about your family and how you started real estate and then it turned into a business. Do you feel right now that people can, because like I have this crazy thought that anybody could do anything, and like my wife came to me one day and was like, dude, you realize that like not everybody could do the things that you're doing, or like Henry or all these people that you have on stage that are doing these things. My brain is so like anybody can do anything they want to do. Like I don't have that barrier of that. Do you feel somebody today could start investing in their first real estate business? And we'll dive into this here in a minute, like how you did, how you had a panic attack. I suffered from those myself. I still deal with anxiety to this day, and I'm a 42-year-old man. So do you think anybody has the ability to do whatever they want? Like let's lead with that, and then we'll talk about the business side of that.
100%. Yes, absolutely. Like I'm just a guy who bought a house and realized how life-changing it was and wanted to share what I was doing with people. And all that has led to where I am today. Like anybody can be in this seat.
Yeah, I so agree with that, man. In your journey throughout the years, because I'm assuming just the same way that I think about this and a lot of people that are in a position that you are now, in a million years, you probably never would have thought you would have got here. Or did you think that already?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely not. So somebody today could buy a piece of land or a home or whatever you want to call it, fix and flip, or we'll talk about the different strategies here in a minute, but could buy something, learn it, get an Instagram together, which, by the way, how freaking lucky are we to be able to pick up a fucking phone and be able to talk into it and reach millions of people? Like our ancestors weren't able to do that. Our parents weren't able to do that. So we live in a time, first off, that's just incredible. But Henry, like, I think that's the gap that I want to try to fill. Because even like my brothers, like people that I know, I talk about this stuff and they're like, man, you're just like this woo woo. Like you think anybody could do anything. And can you talk about that mental piece? Like where you got that from? Like, cause I think everybody has it, but not everybody uses that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what, like, that block came and how you overcame that block? Because I'm assuming you probably had something ish in that
Yeah.
ballpark.
Yeah, I think the foundation came from my dad in terms of he was just real big on like being mentally tough and believing that you can do whatever you want to do. It's just about um, having the mental belief that you can do it, and then having the discipline to execute on whatever you need to execute on to get there. Like it's and so like I think he helped build that foundation in me, and so when it came down to me starting this journey, this real estate journey, I didn't think I couldn't do it. A, because I saw my dad build side businesses while he was an art teacher, because teachers don't make a ton of money. And so if he wanted to have money, he had to do separate things. And so like I saw that entrepreneurship was a path, even though like he didn't teach me entrepreneurship by talking about it, but I saw what he did. So I saw what was possible. So it was time for me to start my own business. I didn't think, well, like, I can't do that. That's not for me. I just thought, well, my dad did it. I can figure out how to do it. But I think a lot of the differences for people is a lot of people, they let fear stop them, and they let other people make decisions for them. And you kind of have to be a little bit crazy to pursue a path even though you don't know how, right? And I think that that's the difference. Like for me, I didn't know how to be a real estate investor or buy property, and logic and reason would tell me that I shouldn't have been a real estate investor and bought property. So in other words, when I had a panic attack at 3 a.m. and made this decision that I was going to be a successful real estate investor, that decision had nothing to do with me knowing how to be a successful real estate investor. Like you have to make the decision without knowing how. And I think that that just makes people uncomfortable, and it makes them scared. And so they won't do that. And then B, logic and reason will sometimes tell you that your decision is foolish, right? And so when I made that decision to become a real estate investor, I had only $1,000 in my savings account. So I had no money, and I had a sub 600 credit score. So I had no money and bad credit. And my plan to fix my financial situation was to buy houses. Like logic and reason says that's stupid, right? And then I don't even know how to do it.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of crazy a little bit you have to have, because you have to make a decision, right? Like I don't know what you believe or what people listening to this believe, but I'm a Christian, right? And Christians believe in God, and you have to have this thing called faith, right? And like sometimes that faith is stepping out and not understanding how, and not even having proof, right, that this thing that you're believing in exists. But you have to have faith that it's there, and it's going to help you, and it's going to support you, it's going to take care of you, right? Like it's like you got to be a little crazy, man. And I think that most people rely on logic and reason to make their decisions a lot of the times, and that fear drives them or keeps them from doing the things that they want to do to help improve their lives.
Yeah, 100%. Even like just the idea of not knowing where to start or not knowing what to do. In fact, we were just talking about this before our call. Like I've been coaching for 3 or 4 years. Like I don't even know exactly what I'm doing. Like we're figuring things out with ads, and we're figuring, like I have no idea what I'm doing. So like everybody on the outside probably is like, you got it all figured out. Like, dude, I have no fucking clue. Like I'm trying to figure it out.
Yes.
And it's crazy because a lot of people think that everybody has it together. I just had a conversation with somebody. They're like, this morning with one of my team members, they're like, I bet you Alex Hormozy has everything figured out. I'm like, dude, I guarantee you he has like a piece of the puzzle. But if you really like took a zoom out, he probably still is figuring this shit out. He gets to hire the smart ass people now that work for Harvard or work for Google or all these other people to help him. But I guarantee you he doesn't know everything, when it comes to those things. And I think it's such a facade to have, like, when you look at these people, and I think you're being a high level, I'm saying you're a high level operator because you're on bigger pockets. You get to be around these people that are doing astronomical things. And the crazy thing is that you start to realize, like, we're all like 1 degree off from each other in a certain way. Like, isn't it crazy, dude, when you start to like, and these people will tell you, they'll say like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I'm trying to figure it out. And you're just like, in your head, you're like, dude, I thought you knew this stuff the whole time. It's crazy, huh?
It's the truth. Like I just recorded an episode for Bigger Pockets today that'll come out soon. But the whole premise of the episode was me, David Green, and Rob Abasolo all talking about deals that we did in the last 6 months that we fucked up. Like that's what we talked about. Like, yeah. And you listen to, like, you're like, we're just like everybody else, right? The difference is, like, it's the mindset. And because the question I kind of wrapped everything up with at the end of that episode was like, okay, we all did these deals. One of them, I can't give too much about it, but one of them, one of us lost, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And the question at the end was, does this make you regret investing in real estate in this current market and economy? And the answer is a resounding absolutely not, right? Like, yeah. It is about, you're going to take some losses and learn some lessons, but the goal is to win more than you lose. And it takes a whole lot of guts to be able to go out there and keep trying things and keep taking risks. The goal is that we're taking calculated risks, right? We're using as much calculation as possible in order for us to be comfortable with the amount of risks that we're taking. And most people are scared of that. They're scared of what they're going to lose. And I think, again, like, people, they poo-poo on mindset. They're like, yeah, mindset, it's great. It's, you just think of something and then it happens. Like, it's not that, right? Mindset, I always define it as, mindset is a mental tool that helps you remain physically disciplined, right? It's the physical steps that you have to do, the practical application that you have to do in order for the success to come. But the mindset helps you stay in the right frame of mind and helps you be more diligent about the physical steps you need to take, right? Like, one of the things I like to do is to write my goals down and put them everywhere, at my office, at my house, right? So that I'm always looking at them. Like, just looking at my goals doesn't solve my problems and make my goals come true. But seeing my goals every day puts it in the back of my mind, so that when I'm sitting at my desk and I'm like, what do I need to work on next? Or I'm sitting at my desk and I go, man, I've got this thing that's weighing down on me and it's holding me back. Then I can glimpse up at my goals and be like, okay, well, is this thing helping me get closer to my goals right now? And if it's not, then I know I can put that thing off and not even worry about it anymore. Like, it's just that little mental tool helps me remain physically disciplined to the steps I need to be taking to actually get me to my goals. That's why people say, I write down my goals and then I look up at the end of the year and they came true. Well, yeah, because your mind was so focused on them all the time that the steps you were taking were in line with your goals.
Yeah, I love that. I'm in a group called Go Abundance, and that's like the framework of what Go Abundance is. It's all about goal setting, and we have weekly meetings, and it's literally to keep us accountable for the goals that we set with ourselves, but we do it in a communal space with our other people in our pod. And their whole framework on Go Abundance is specifically goal tracking. Like, that's 100% what it is. Like, what doesn't get tracked doesn't get measured, right? I think that was an old, I forget who said that, but it's one of those things that is 100% true. Like, and that's cool that you're like, you could take something as simple as a sticky note and slam it somewhere on a wall, and then that physical mental reminder of you just reading something will put you back in that frame of thought. That's what that mental frame kind of, I'm not going to say toughness, because there's a difference between tough and just being able to see your goal, and then you go back into that mindset of like, I need to be doing this thing in order to stay on track to continue to do this. And the other thing with real estate too is, I think a lot of people get in this space, or when they're getting into it, they think they need to hit home runs every time. I can tell you right now, like, out of the last 4 deals that I've done, I've had 2 base hits and 2 fucking strikeouts. And that's how real estate is. Like, you might have 1 home run out of the next decade, and it's just that one that's going to kill. Like, you're going to make freaking cash, right? But then you're going to have base hits all along the way. And I think that's the way to really look at real estate, is if I can just get base hits, instead of hitting it out of the park with that, fix and flip that's massive, or this big, short-term rental that's going to kill, like, you're probably not going to have those. And if those do come around, it's a onesie, twosie in a decade or so, or maybe a big deal. But most of them, if you're playing your cards right, the base hits eventually are going to stack up. And if you look at, like, baseball players, 3 out of 10 at bats, like, you're in the top.
Yeah.
You're like with the big dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're premier hitter. Yeah.
100%, dude. And I've been watching your daughter, which is pretty cool, because I love baseball. Like, I love that sport as a collective team. Like, everybody's working together. But if you look at every single player, they all have their own unique style, and there's so much diversity in it, which I think is super awesome. But What do you think of that, man? Like when it comes to because like I think again, going back to people that I talk to, they're just like, I want to get this one property and I want to be able to make 50,000 from it, and I want to flip it, or I want to do this, or I want to pick up a creative financing deal, and I got to get this. Like, dude, no, it's not like that. Like you have to lose that mindset. Can you talk about that real quick? Because I'm sure that you're doing this for a while,
Yeah.
hundreds of deals that you've done, like you've probably nailed this part down.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's like the cool part and the overwhelming part of real estate. And it's that there's so many ways to get deals done. And people are just, they're taught like, or not necessarily taught, but people see people do it and they go, I want to do a flip, or I want to do a midterm rental, or I want to do a insert exit strategy here. And so they put these blinders on and they're focused on like doing that one thing. And I think when you do that, you're leaving so much potential on the table, potential money, potential for learning maybe some other niche that actually might fit you better. And so what I tell people is when you're getting started, it's best to just put the blinders on and focus on the lowest common denominator. And when you do that, you open yourself up to more options. And so what I mean by that is it doesn't matter if you want to do short-term, mid-term, long-term, flips, wholesales. The one thing you need for any of those strategies to work appropriately is you need a deal, right? You need a deal that works at a certain price point. And so don't think of the exit when you're getting started. Think of, okay, I need to figure out what's a deal look like in the market that I'm looking to purchase property in, and then how am I going to go find that deal? Those are the two things you should focus on. Nothing else really matters yet, right? Like it doesn't matter who your contractor is because you don't have a property for them to work on. It doesn't matter who your title company is because you don't have a deal for them to close. It doesn't matter who your lender is because you don't have a deal for them to fund, right? All of these things that we get so focused on trying to get all lined up and get all of our, the ducks in a row, 80% of those things don't matter until you have a deal anyway. And also, if you looking at all these deals with your, flipper glasses on, you could pass up on a deal that would have been a great deal for you to just assign to somebody else because it doesn't fit your buy box, but it fits their buy box, and you could have made $5,000 assigning it to them, right? And so put the blinders on. What's a good deal look like in the market I'm looking to do deals in? You can learn that a number of ways. You can learn that by immersing yourself in the real estate investment culture in that market, getting in all the meetups you can get into. When you're in these meetups, go sit in the front of the room, front and center. Who sits front and center? People doing deals typically, right? And so go talk to those people, strike up a conversation, ask them. We love talking about our deals, right? If somebody came and struck up a conversation with you right now and said, "Hey man, what's your last deal look like? What'd you pay for it? What'd you put into it? What's your exit on it? How are you doing it?" Like you'll tell them all that information, right? And so what's that? What are you gleaning? You're gleaning from a seasoned investor what they're buying at what price point. So you're learning what a good deal looks like for them. You're learning what they're doing to the property and how they're doing it to the property. You might be learning how they're financing that property. You're learning so much. And so you're going to learn just by having conversations and being around other investors what good deals look like in certain parts of that market. And so once you understand, all right, a good deal in my market means I need to buy a property at a 40% discount or a 30% discount or a 20% discount, right? That's going to vary based on where your local market is, right? And so once you figure out what that deal looks like, then you can just pick one strategy to find deals. And people get so hung up on, marketing for deals. And what I tell people is everybody markets for deals, right? They just don't know they're marketing for deals because some people see marketing for deals and they think, well, I need to go pay for direct mail and send a bunch of mail. And some people hear marketing for deals and they think, well, I need to go cold call a bunch of people. And some people hear marketing and think I got to go knock on a bunch of doors. And I don't want to do that. But marketing is also looking for deals on the MLS. Marketing is also networking with other investors. Finding deals costs you something. It either costs you time or it costs you money. And if you don't fund your marketing strategy appropriately with your resource of time or money, then it's not going to produce the results. So pick a strategy that fits the resources that you have and your personality. If you're a person that has time on their hands but not a bunch of money, okay, now we need to focus on a strategy that doesn't cost money, but it's going to cost you your time. So budget that. How much time do you have to apply to it? Then pick a strategy where the resource that you have fits that strategy, right? Like if you only have a certain amount of time, you need to pick a strategy where that time is going to be most effectively used. Or vice versa. If you don't have a bunch of time, but you have a couple $1,000s that you could put aside to put to your marketing, now you need to pick a strategy where your budget of a couple $1,000s a month is going to get you the highest return in terms of touches, right? You just have to budget the resource that you have. Pick one strategy that fits the resources that you have and fits your personality appropriately. Don't lie to yourself. Don't say, I don't have any money and so I'm going to go door knock when you know you ain't built for that, right? Like, and you're going to get cursed out 2 times and then quit. Like, don't lie to yourself. Pick the strategy that fits your personality and the budget of resources you have and implement that strategy relentlessly, consistently until it works. Because the best part about real estate investing is that it's not new. All of these marketing strategies have been proven to work decade over decade. You don't have to guess if you apply the right amount of resources to the strategy, will it work? We know it works. So what's a deal look like? What's the method I can use to find the deal given the resources? And hammer it until you get a deal. Once you get a deal, the rest, you're going to be so motivated to figure out the rest because you've got that good deal on the hook. You'll be able to find your contractor, your title company, your funding source. Like, if it's a good deal, people will throw money at you. If it's a good deal, you'll be able to sell it to somebody else if you can't close on it. Like, that's what people should focus on. And then if you got a good deal, you have a choice, man. I could throw a tenant in it and make it a long-term rental. I could furnish it and make it a short-term rental. I could furnish it and do a midterm rental. I can fix it up and sell it and make a profit. Like, you'll have all the options.
As you were talking about all that stuff, I'm actually going into Instagram right now, and I'm going to read you a message that I got from a woman. She says, "Hey, Jesse, I've been stuck on this for the last 3 months. I can't decide what type of logo I'm going to use before I start making phone calls or connecting with people. What do you think would be the best name that I can make for my company? And also, can you tell me where I need to go to get the articles of incorporation for this?" This is a perfect example of what you just said right now. And the reason why you came in, this is perfect. I got this yesterday and responded back to her. People will get hung up on literally the most base. Nobody gives a crap what company name you work with. You can call them and say, "My name is Joe Schmo with Joe Schmo Apartment Company." And they'll be like, "Cool, I would love to work with the Joe Schmo." Nobody cares about a name. So I love that you brought that up, man, because I remember doing that too, where it's like I needed to have the right business card that had the right, like, you've put your hands over it and I wanted it to be raised and I like all these little tiny things. But when you go back and you look at it, like, that stuff doesn't even matter, not even a little bit. And that's somebody taking things to the extreme, like needing to get every little detail in order. I almost think that's like this fallacy that we bring in our head to like delay actually doing the work in a weird way. Like, I truly believe that because I've been there myself and I've done that, where it's like, I'm going to try to go through all the small details of all these little things that I know aren't really going to matter, but I'm just making in my head like I'm actually doing something that it's going to actually matter. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right, man. I think people get wrapped up on the smallest things, but I mean, action, I believe, is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. And a lot of everything you're talking about right now goes back to that framework that you talked about, just taking action and doing something, like actually not figuring it out, but you're still having that crazy switch come off where you're just like, I'm going to try to figure this stuff out anyway. So that's pretty cool. So at least this gives context to don't get stuck in the minutia of the small things and just get a deal, because that's going to give you the opportunities that are going to open up to whatever it is that you want to do, whether you sell it, whether you keep it, whether you know what to even do with it. And a little hack too, because I have a lot of people that reach out to me and they're like, "Jess, I'm an introvert. I hate going to these events and blah, 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 blah." You just said something perfectly. This is an introvert's hack if you're going to any meetups. Just go ask somebody about themselves, because people love talking about themselves, and you just literally got to sit there and listen. And usually introverts are good listeners. That's all you got to do. Like, literally, like, people love talking about themselves. So just go do that, right, Henry? That's
perfect. Listen, and more strategically even than that, like, be actively listening for a need that they may have. And what you'll start to see is, like, because one thing I learned about networking early on was that it's not about what I get from networking. It's about what I can give when networking. And so listen actively, and you'll start to hear people say things. Maybe you'll overhear a conversation, maybe that you're not even in. But people will talk about their pain points. And every one of us has skills and talents and access to resources of other people's skills and talents. And so what you're looking for is an opportunity to offer value to somebody. Right? Everybody says, you're supposed to go to these events, add value. But if I'm so new, how do I add value? I don't know how you can add value, right? you don't know how you can add value yet. But if you set a goal, again, in your mind, especially if you're an introvert, I found you kind of have to like make a plan for events. So write down, I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to talk to 5 seasoned investors, and I'm going to try to figure out 1 or 2 of them who I can help with something almost immediately. Like write that down and take that with you on a sticky note. And that's just all that's doing is opening your mind to hearing those things, right? I talked about this on stage a little bit when I was at your thing, but it's the red truck theory, right? Once you buy a red truck, all you see is red trucks. It's not that there's more red trucks that exist. It's just that your mind is now open to the possibility that this specific red truck exists. So open your mind up to the possibility that you're going to talk to 5 people and you're going to hear and figure out a way to help them. And then your brain will start listening for it, right?
Yeah.
And so as you do that, you'll hear something. Maybe you'll hear somebody say, oh, I'm struggling with my website, or, oh, I came here, but I'm a little late because, I had to bring the kids. We don't have somebody to watch the kids, right? And you might be like, oh, I can provide childcare for you. Or you might be like, oh, I know a guy, my buddy does websites. And you can be like, hey, I overheard you saying you're struggling with X, Y, and Z. I'd love to be able to offer my services for A, B, and C. Or I have a friend who does this. Would you mind if I just send a quick email and I'll connect you to what's your email address, right? And then you make this connection. Even if that connection doesn't pan out to them doing business together, that seasoned investor is now going to go, man, this Jussie kid just went out of his way to try to help me. He doesn't know me from Adam, right? Yeah. And so now you stick out in their mind as somebody they'll remember, and now human nature's in your favor, and they're going to want to help you. And just because you've added value. I did this at your event. I bet you didn't even know that. I
didn't.
When I went to your event, you had a guy on stage named Noble Crawford, right?
Yeah.
Noble did an amazing talk about how he leverages government contracts and all kinds of cool stuff in order to optimize and make more cash flow on his midterm rental properties. And I just thought the whole time I was listening, I was like, this guy is incredible. It's somebody I would like to be closer to so that I can learn from them, so that I can glean something of their knowledge. And after he got off the stage, what did people do, right? They ran up to him, they're talking to him, and they're trying to say, essentially what they're saying is, give me some of your information. How to teach me what you do. I need to learn. Give me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's not what I wanted to do. I just want to give to Noble so that when I want to give or when I need help, he's going to want to help me versus the other 100 people who ran up to him after the stage. And so after he talked, I went up to him, I introduced myself, and I said, what you did up there was incredible. You gave a whole lot of people a lot of value, and you added a lot to people's lives, man. I'm super proud of what you just did. That's all I said to him, shook his hand and walked off, right? Yeah. But every time I was around him, I was listening. And so when we went to the VIP dinner that night, he was having a conversation, not with me, with somebody else, right? And I heard him tell that other person that he was going to go back home to Dallas after this event. And I was like, I'm going to Dallas after this event, but I'm going to another real estate meetup with some other seasoned investors in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And so then after he was done with that conversation, I waited and I talked to him and I said, hey, heard you say you're from Dallas and you're headed back there. I'm actually headed to Dallas after this. I'm going to an event where I'm speaking, but I'm speaking in a mastermind. So it's a bunch of other seasoned investors who are doing deals all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if that's where you live, this would probably be a great place for you to make some good connections going forward. I was like, if you're free, on such and such dates, I'd love to just pay for you to be able to come to that event. Mm-hmm. And he said yes. So I paid for his ticket and he came to that event and he came to that mastermind and he networked with all these investors and made some great connections, and I asked for nothing in return. Right. But if I need something, do you think he'd help me?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
And he would have helped me had I just asked him for help in general, because that's the kind of guy he is. Totally. But when you're networking, this is what networking is about. It's about providing value to people. And then you're turning human nature in your favor. Because now if I need something, I don't have any doubt that he's going to go out of his way to continue to help me. And I'm not saying that because I think he owes me anything. Right. But networking is about what you give, not what you get.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people misconstrue that too. I did that when I first started off in the space. I really felt I got to get this and I got to do that. But in reality, it's I think if you have that servitude mindset, it's such a, it leans in your favor. I even do this with people. Like, I had this kid, dude. He was 20 years old, started a business on his own, washing cars. Like, he actually came to my house, took my car apart, like not took it apart, but like opened everything up, was out there with the freaking little toothbrush for hours, dude, hours. And just the amount of hard work and like that stuff, I saw him building something. Like, I see this kid has like potential, and I went up to him. I was like, hey man, like, what's your Instagram handle? Like, if you don't mind sharing. He's like, yeah, this is my detailing company. Told me his name. Went online, posted it, and I was like, you guys, if you're in the Central Valley, like, you got to have this guy come out. He's been at my house for 4.5 hours with one car. I've never seen anybody spend this much amount of time with anything. This guy's business like took off just by a post.
Yes.
People starting to connect. And the crazy thing is, and I don't want to say like wealthy people kind of look for people like that, but I almost feel like there's like this thing in their brains where it's like they see that level of like, I want to do something where it's like it doesn't matter what it could be, like fucking I want to be the best reader on the planet. It doesn't matter what it is, but that like excelling beyond what's normal from regular people to do that. Somehow these entrepreneurs or these people that I'm saying wealthy in the sense because I've just watched these people that will essentially bring them into their circles.
Yes.
And this kid, like, I could just feel that in him, man. And it's something I've seen happen like super often and stuff. And what I'm trying to say is like, there's opportunities everywhere, and it's like how you show up to the world, like what you're putting out. Like, people will see that and they'll understand it and they'll feel it and they'll work with you on those things. If you're open to that, you'll have opportunities that literally will land in your lap. In fact, one of the servers that I had, this was years ago, dude, when I used to work in healthcare. I was a sales rep, sales manager for a hospice, health and hospice hospital company. And this woman, every time we would go to Dust Bowl Brewing Company, she knew exactly what beer I wanted. She knew what my kids wanted. She knew what my wife was drinking. Like, she knew everything dialed in. I asked her, I was like, hey, are you interested in sales at all? Like, you're really good at communicating. Like, you remembered all of our shit. She ended up coming to work with me at my company, started a receptionist, moved up within 3 months to a sales rep.
Yes.
Became a sales rep. And now to this day, her name is Erin, one of the top sales reps of the company. I saw that as a need and opportunity just by her knowing, dude, knowing my orders, like me going in there every week that's our dinner thing. We did that. Yeah. She showed up for herself and for the customers that she had. She was providing customer service. I instantly was like, this person had something. Yes. You know what I mean?
It's you know, I talk about this in my talks a lot too when I'm on stage. It's like, because people, it's like, well, what does it take to be successful in this market when things are harder, right? When deals are harder to find, when it's harder to find cash flow. And the main thing I tell people is, are you willing to do what most people want, what most people won't do? And if you're willing to do what most people won't do, you're going to find success. And it's extremely more important now because we think, oh, we're real estate investors. We're already doing what most people won't do. Most people won't go invest in real estate. But let's go a step beyond that. Real estate investor to real estate investor. Are you willing to do what the other real estate investors won't do? Most people, because to find a deal right now, you have to work hard to find something that you can really get at a discount, low enough at a discount that you can get it to cash flow traditionally, right? I think that's why things like in your space, people are so attracted to it because they're like, I can buy something and I can get it to cash flow, right? But even that is becoming more difficult now, right? Because there's more increasing competition in the space, and so it's getting more challenging. So if you want to be successful, are you willing to do what most people won't do, right? Like, I can buy deals at cash flow right now, not because I have some super special skill set that nobody else has, but I'm willing to make an offer on a property of $120,000 when it was listed for $250,000, right? Most people won't do that. They're embarrassed. They don't understand. They're scared of what people are going to think when they make those offers, but I'm willing to do what most people won't in terms of making offers. I'm willing to do what most people won't in terms of marketing for deals, right? And so it's the same thing. So we as entrepreneurs, we see that in people in other businesses, right? You were seeing this kid who was willing to do what most car detailers won't, which was take the car apart and really take pride in his work and providing you with a top level quality of service, even though you probably wouldn't even have seen the things he was taking care of, like at the level of detail, right? But that was important to him. So you immediately see this guy's willing to do what most people won't. You're willing to see this server is willing to do what most people won't. That's potential. That's success. When you are willing to do that in any industry, success is waiting for you.
Dude, you just gave me goosebumps right now. Like, that's so good. I think it's, again, like, just you're right. I heard somebody, I don't remember who said this. Maybe it was Cody Sanchez or somebody. She's like, do 10% more than most people, and that's like showing up to work 10 minutes early. That's leaving work 10 minutes later. She's like, you're already doing, if you're just doing that alone, you're like 10% above everybody else.
Yes.
And that's just like the bare minimum, like 10 minutes early, 10 minutes later.
Yep.
It's crazy, dude, how like, you know, a lot of us, and myself included, when I was, you know, younger and stuff, like everything is so monotonous with going into work and doing these things. It's like almost like you get stuck into like, I don't want to do more. This is what it's required of me, so I'm going to do the bare minimum. But if you actually like go out and you really intentionally try to put these things together, like it's crazy who notices those kinds of things and how those opportunities will start to, you talked about this earlier when you talked about like writing something down, how your brain seeks it out. Like I believe in God, and I believe that heavily too as well. But I believe like not only do our brains seek those things out, but opportunities will start to come to you because of this like energy frequency that you're letting out to the world. Like you're receiving that back. And I think people think it's like, you know, woo-woo stuff when I talk about this, but I'm somebody that literally lives that like to this day.
It's how the world works. It's literally how the entire world works. Like if you want something, you need to find a way to give that thing, and that thing comes to you, right? Like one of the analogies I always give is if your life depended on you getting punched in the stomach right now, you've got 2 minutes to get somebody to punch you in the stomach. What's the best way for that to happen? Yeah, you could run around like crazy and going, punch me in the stomach, but most people are going to look at you crazy and run away from you. But if you find a big guy and run straight up to him and punch him dead in the stomach, what's he going to do?
Yeah.
He's going to punch you right back in the stomach. Right? That you get what you give. That's how the world works.
I 100% agree to that. It's such like I think a lot of people look at it as like it's a woo-woo thing, but again, I really don't believe that. And the older I get, dude, the more I realize like that is how the world works. And I didn't think about that when I was younger. Yeah. My parents, like I grew up super Hispanic, like a Catholic household. I'm not sure if you met my mom at the event or not, but like my dad passed away a few years ago, and like my parents were super giving to people all the time. Like so that was always in me. And kind of like your dad, how your dad would say like these things are possible for you. You just have to like want to go out there and get them. And like I thought it was all kind of BS, you know, growing up. And even in my early 20s, I was like fucking around doing dumb shit, drinking beer and stuff. Then my daughter was born, and I was like, I need to straighten up now. Like I have a kid, I got to take care of somebody else now. But there's a weird thing that starts to happen as I became older and older. I just started to look at things in a totally different light. And there's just, it really does work that way, man. It's a hard thing to, and the crazy thing is that I see people in their 20s that already understand this. And I'm like, where the hell did you get that? Like, where did that come from? Like, where did you get that from? But it's crazy. It's about being around the people that talk about it, and that you're starting to absorb it and you're starting to get it. It doesn't necessarily need to come from family. In fact, one of the guys that's 25 that I know is one of my students. He has that same exact mindset. His parents were divorced early on, young. Like they lived in two separate households. Like he just started absorbing, going to meetups, going to these events, meeting people, and just like started adapting those personalities those people had and what they were interested in. And eventually he started to adapt that same mentality. We've all heard it. It's like the 5 people you're around the most, right? That's so freaking true. Like that is 100% true. And the cool thing about it, Henry,
easy to implement.
Yeah, I don't even have to, like, you could be one of my 5 people, and the cool thing is I can get on freaking Bigger Pockets, and I can listen to you every single day, and guess what starts to happen? You're one of my 5 people that I hang out with the most, because I'm in my car on my way to work, which is an hour. You're in my car on the way back, which is an hour. That's 2 hours a day for 5 days a week. Do the math on that.
Right.
Add that to the month. So what's your thoughts on that, man, when people are like, oh, that stuff's not true, I don't have good mentors, or my friends are idiots, and they just smoke weed all day long, and live with their parents and eat Hot Pockets? Like, what's your...
my first thought is Hot Pockets are delicious. So, I get that. They burn the roof of your mouth, but they're phenomenal.
I do love Hot Pockets.
My second thought is, what do you have to lose? Because these are free, easy things to implement, right? And so what if it's woo-woo? It didn't cost you anything, but a little bit of time for you to be selective about who you're hanging. Try it. Try it. Like I posted a video on my Instagram the other day about it, where it was like this. It's free to do, but think about it. Like there was just look at your network, right? Look at the people who maybe were the kids who got in trouble in school, right? And I guarantee you all of them weren't just bad people, but it's just you're hanging out with the wrong people, you get caught in the wrong situation. Look at the people who had success. I guarantee you not all of them were super smart geniuses, but if you're hanging out with the right people, you end up doing what those people do. And so it's not about it's more about like who you hang around with lets you know what's possible. And when your friends are all doing something and it seems amazing to you, you start to realize that like, oh, it's not that amazing. These are just normal people just doing stuff. So I can do this thing too. And then you just naturally start to take on some of those characteristics. And so you naturally start to do some of those things. I interviewed a guy on a podcast once. This was a story I told on social. He bought a 200 unit multifamily apartment building for his very first deal. And when we asked him like, what made you do that? Because most people want to buy a single family and then they move on to a duplex and then maybe do a small apartment building and then maybe start to raise money for an apartment. Like, why was that your first deal? And he was like, honestly, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. He was like, all of my friends owned apartment buildings. That's just what they invested in. And so that's just what I bought. Like I just did that. Yeah. Right. And it's this thing like us as new investors, we're like this barrier to entry to this large multifamily space seems crazy. Yeah. But that's because we're not hanging around with a bunch of people who buy apartment buildings every day. And so we didn't know we weren't supposed to do that.
Dude, that's crazy. That's like perfect analogy when it comes to that. Because I think, again, just being around people, you start to like adapt some of the like the same way they talk, or you'll start to, maybe shift into the books they're reading or whatever podcasts they're into, or even like, we just talked about like Dan Martell and people like that. Like maybe that's a direction that I start listening to this person. It gives me something. And now all of a sudden, Henry, Dan Martell, Cody Sanchez, David Green, and like, these are my mentors, even though I'm not necessarily in their courses or in your course or whatever. I'm spending the time with them. I'm spending the most time with them. And I can tell you for myself, like I was, dude, I didn't graduate high school. Like I was an idiot. Like I didn't do any of the things that I was supposed to do. I got a job early. I started working and I saw opportunities. And I grew up in, in the 2000s or 90s and 2000s, where I think it's different now where, back then, I think even more now, like you had to have a college education or a high school diploma to be able to get that job, to get into a certain thing. Like you had to have that. Nowadays, like I can go online and create something and become a millionaire. But back then I didn't have that framework, but I did get really good at sales. Like I did really get really good at understanding people. I did really get good at this one particular thing, and it was sales. And essentially that's what molded Henry into like this space where I'm at now. Yeah. But granted, I've always had that energy in me where it's like, or I wanted to do more. I did not want to live a normal, regular life. Like I didn't want to have that regularness that everybody else has. In fact, dude, speaking of regular, I live in the same hometown that I grew up and was raised in. I never even left here, which now I'm thinking like, I need to get the hell out of here. I've had to talk to my wife about it. I'm like, let's move somewhere else. Like, what are we doing here still? Our kids are here and all that stuff. But dude, I think that there's just, even the kids that sometimes have a hard time sitting down or just being around the wrong people, because I was around the wrong people, but I had this weird, I could be around fire but not get burned. Like I was around people that were doing dumbass stuff, dude. And I was the guy that was like level-headed still. My friends were drinking, getting all wasted, and I had maybe a beer or two, and that was it. But I was around the wrong people, which essentially, in a way, put me in that position of being on that negative end of not having a high school diploma. That's literally what it was. It was me being around the wrong people that shifted me in the wrong direction. But after my daughter was born, I started to think differently. I started to listen to Tony Robbins. I started to have that, like, I could do more. Les Brown, I don't know if you know who Les Brown is. Like, I started listening to him, and I'm just like, dude, what am I doing? Like, where am I going? And I eventually moved into a different direction. But if somebody, I love you. Yeah, I love your analogy of like, if I could do this, anybody can. If me, growing up in a small little podunk town of Turlock, California, and being able to build a pretty successful business, didn't even graduate high school, like literally anybody could do what they want. Like I truly, truly believe that.
Do you know why you were protected? Do you know why you were able to be around fire and not get burned?
No, tell me.
Because of what you're doing here right now.
Yeah.
God had a plan for you to reach other people who come from where you come from and look like you look like, and had some of the same or lack of the same resources that you had. Like,
Yeah.
this has been in the works for you since before you knew it. But
Yeah.
now, having gone through what you've gone through, you were able to reach people and help them get out of their circumstances. Like, you're a vessel for lifting people up. Why you get to be chosen to do that, I don't know. You don't get to know. It's not something we really ever get to know.
Yeah.
But I know that if you don't honor the opportunity that's given to you by continuing to help people,
Yeah.
then they'll take it from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And the crazy thing, I'm glad you brought that up because it brought things full circle. Like, I believe every person has a purpose, whether you want to believe it or not. And I think God or the universe, whoever's listening to this believes in, obviously we're talking about God here, but I 100% believe that there's purpose for everybody. Like me growing up in Turlock, like, it was hard for me. Like, and I'll explain this to you guys real quick. I know we're getting ready to top of the hour, but I want to talk about this. I grew up in a town where there was not very many Mexican kids. Like, I was picked on all the time. Like, people called me freaking Benny Rodriguez when Sandlot came out. And he was cool. Like, why would anybody want to make fun of Benny
Benny
Rodriguez?
was dope.
He was the cool. Like, I went and bought PF5. Like, I was one of the only kids that was a brown kid at my school. And my parents, like, when I was growing up, they were always telling me, like, everything's going to be more difficult for you. Like, you're going to have to work harder than everybody else. In fact, when I was a kid, dude, I used to wish that I was a white kid so I didn't have to deal with the bullshit that I would deal with, like, in school, like, literally all the time. Like, people would call me Beaner, and, like, because I was the only brown kid at my school, which was, like, a very, very small, it was a small little city in California, which was weird. It's in Central California. But as I grew up, dude, I started to realize, like, exactly what you just said. There's a whole group of people that look just like me that needed me to come through. In fact, like, I think people of color gravitate towards other people of color that look like them. People in general gravitate towards that. But if you look at real estate now, there's not a whole lot of Mexican dudes that are out there, like, creating stuff. There's really not. There's not. In reality, it's been I also believe that, there's a lot of opportunity for everybody. It doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are. But I also believe that exactly what you just said, there's a purpose that was put here on this earth for me to do. And I didn't know it early on in my life, but then I realized it later. And it's something that we all get to see, and we all get to find our way and our purpose in on our own ways. But everything led to this.
Yeah. And what I want people to hear from that is, like, I'm not saying to everybody that you need to do real estate because it's your calling or your passion. What I am saying is that we all have a calling or a passion. But what stops us from being able to pursue our callings and passions is, a lot of the times, we got to go to work to make money to take care of our family and our expenses. And that's the best part about real estate. Is it doesn't have to be your passion. It's okay if it's not your calling. But what it does is it provides you income so that you can be the person you're called to be and do the things that you're called to do, and not what you have to do every day just to make money. And that's why I continue to invest now, because that's what I want for my children. I just want my children to be able to be the people that they're called to be, not the people that they have to be to make money. And maybe the people that they're called to be turns out to be something that makes a bunch of money, and that's amazing. But if it's not, and what they're really called to do isn't a high-paying job, or doesn't afford them time to go work a high-paying job, I want them to be able to be that person they're called to be. And if me investing in real estate allows them the financial freedom to be able to do that, then that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, I love that, man. Henry, you said it all today. We talked about it all, man. Having intuition with things that are happening, getting out there and just pushing yourself to do things. I guess we kind of did talk about manifestation to a lot of degree, but it's also like you have to put in work. Like, you can't just
yes. The work still has to get done. Yeah. Yes.
I know. There's a whole thing going around with manifestation on socials where it's like you just go in front of a mirror and you taunt you say these mantras every day, and like it's just gonna come to you. But like, no, you have to like go out and do shit. You have to like move the needle. You have to put action behind the mantra. Like, I get it, but there's a whole movement with that right now. But Henry, where can folks find you at if they want to check you out or follow you? I'm sure that people are already doing that, but where can they find you?
Yeah, best place to find me is on Instagram. I'm at the Henry Washington on Instagram. And please, everybody, if you want to learn how to get really good at finding those deals and how to get really good at finding the funding for those deals, you can check out my book, Real Estate Deal Maker. You can get it right now at biggerpockets.com/dealsbook, DEALSBOOK.
Awesome, dude. I'm so stoked for your book right now. I love that you have that up there. Your kids can find that at any freaking bookstore when they get older. It's so dope, man. It's such a you really changed the way that I looked at potentially setting up and writing a book. And for those of you that don't know Henry, go follow him. In fact, I have a couple students that have worked with him that have actually how they learned how to get off the ground, how to run numbers on deals, and like they learned it from Henry, which is pretty awesome. Now they're applying what they learned from Henry into other avenues, which again is the best part about real estate. Is you can learn one way, and then you have all these other options once you learn how to do just the basic stuff. So, Henry, it's so awesome to have you here, man. I really love what you're doing. I love your generosity. You're a cool dude, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And yeah, man, get out there and get that book and hit Henry up, you guys.
Thank you very much, Jesse, man. I'm super proud of you too, man. You should be proud of what you built.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Appreciate it.